black youth of today do not go to church, and they don't have that church band grooming. Like B. Cox came from the
Right,
church, right?
right,
Jodeci comes from church. Like,
right.
so when you listen to that soul that you think is soul, it's an added
That's coming from over
it's
there.
yeah, it's an added piece of information that if you're gonna make these records, it's hard to beat Jodeci when
Mm.
you don't have that element.
You don't have
You know what I mean? That's a
you don't have
that's
yeah you don't have that
yeah,
soul. You don't have that
that's
passion.
an element. So it's like when people be saying, "Yo, music ain't the way it used to be." Like I just posted my new Anthony Hamilton record is coming
Yeah,
out on
Queen,
October 4th. Yeah,
Queen.
Queen, right?
Yeah,
Anthony Hamilton
come
comes from the
from
church.
church.
Like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
not gonna get that that's in his voice.
yeah.
You ain't just getting that from being on the internet. That ain't getting ready to happen.
Shout your pastor out in the comments, man. We really want to shout these guys out. Like, we want to be a place of encouragement. So please tag them in the comments. Shout them out so that way they can at least know, you know what, people out here, people support. We appreciate the contribution that you're making. Bro, I love this. I love this.
Talk your talk, man.
Bro, so this has been circulating around lately, and I'm like, we got to bring this to the pod because, number one, this shows you Jermaine Dupri is brilliant because he understands, like, he gave a great insight to something that many people talk about in the culture today. They're like, what happened to R&B, right? Like, what happened to it? And what he said is absolutely, completely spot on. Like, black folks are not in church no more. And I want to give some, like, specifics around that. Because people still kind of do go to church, but not the church that produce these legends.
Yeah, that culture. Mm-hmm.
Not the ones that produce these legends, right? Like this new church, this non-denom, this easy come, easy go with the flow. That ain't producing legends, bro. That's
45-minute services.
No, like it's that old school, broken down church where you go in there Sunday morning, Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday, Wednesday, revival. Like you got to be up in there 3 hours going strong on the mic type of church. That's what produced the legends. That's where they came out of, bro. Like, think about it. All time greatest art vocalist, hands down, Whitney Houston. Hands down. Where'd that voice come from? Where did she get that voice? Hands down. Everyone, it's unanimous. Whitney Houston has that voice. Where did she get it from? She got it from the church. But I want to go beneath just because they bring up like the spiritual element, right? That's what I even heard people on the Breakfast Club talking about. Yeah, they like that. It's the anointing. It is, but there is something else. And I think that's what's relevant for this conversation. Where else in society is there an institution where you're able to get the reps at your craft the way that you would in church? Like where else can you go in society today that is going to give you the reps? Not only in singing is one, right? The greatest musicians come out
playing, yeah. You're playing at 8 years old, 9 years old.
And it's not something you're doing for work. Like necessarily, you're not necessarily doing, some people get paid, but most people are volunteers. Where else in society are you able to go and perfect a gift in the way that you can in the church? And in the churches that we came out of, the ones that were strict, the ones that you were like basically that you lived and surrounded your life around that. Like where else?
Holiness is right.
Where else can you do that? And while there are, we obviously know there are some problematic elements to that, but that's where the legends come from. The legendary, like even beyond singing, the best speakers come out of church.
Mm-hmm. Everything from Maxwell to your favorite orator that are going and talking, they'll tell you that they started in church, they gave a testimony. Like, it really allows you to, refine your gift. And here's the thing about church culture that we don't big up enough. Mm-hmm. They will allow you, if you're a volunteer and you're failing, they will allow you to fail forward. Mm-hmm. Oh, bless him, baby. Bless him, baby. Lord, bless his heart. Use him, Lord. Usually that's happening when, you pushing through. You're trying,
because the nature of the organization doesn't have a choice. Who else? Like, we don't got, like, who else is on the bench? Ain't nobody else on the bench. It's me.
Yeah. We need you to volunteer. We need you to volunteer and play these drums. So what? You're off a little bit. Okay, we'll do more practice, but we're not giving up on you because
we don't got a choice. It's either you or we're gonna get somebody out of the pew to come do it. That's our only options.
So here's another thing I thought of when this clip came by, is the culture of church has switched. We're attempting to make it more accessible. With accessibility comes a lower standard of commitment. Mm-hmm. So because it's so accessible, we are going and we're getting people that are already talented, and we're bringing them in to play for us but if you are in a small church, you don't have the budget to do that, right? So you're playing the drums. I got my son a drum set when he was 6, mm-hmm. and he was banging around with the drum set, and then the actual drum player at our church and the music director saw that he had a desire for that, mm-hmm. and he called him up and he was like, "Hey, bring him to practice." Mm-hmm. And after practice, they worked on, you know what I mean? Like, that's how the grooming and teaching comes. And when it comes to singing, like, yes, the unction that you feel in church, the passion that you feel about your relationship with your Lord that is gonna pour out. And sometimes you could close your eyes, and if you aren't listening to the lyrics, when you hear Whitney belt out one of her songs, you could be like, "Yo, that's a gospel run." Yeah. So
you're able to learn what your range is in terms of like, you're able to practice it because you get so many reps. Like, you get so many reps.
And because church is more accessible, the level of commitment is lower and the level of dedication and time is lower. So what you're going to produce is more watered down.
I mean, and even like, if you look at a lot of the mega churches now, like, if you go to a mega church, how difficult it's going to be to even get on the praise team or even get in,
because everybody's on staff.
And it's usually the most talent. Like, they find the most talent.
They got degrees. They got, all these,
or they're already
qualifications.
They're already recording artists.
Yeah.
And I noticed that too, because like, even where we live now, like, I've been to a mega church, and I've also been to, like, smaller, more old school type traditional church.
Yeah.
What I notice in the traditional church compared to the mega church is they're willing to try different types of songs more so than the mega church. Like, you go to the mega church, you're going to hear the same songs all the time, or the same style of song. But
because they have a formula.
They have it's more exactly
formulaic.
It's more formulaic. It's more, okay, we've done this, or we're doing 5 services today, so we're not about to be trying no different stuff. We're not going to do any type of any trial and error because the stakes are too high. But in a smaller, more traditional church, they're gonna try. I remember in one Sunday we were at that traditional church and they tried a Ty Tribbett song. I forget. It was called. It was a really difficult song. I'm like, yo, like the level. I was impressed just that for the fact that they tried. I was like, wow, like that was not an easy song to do, but you'll find that more in more traditional, smaller churches than you will in some of these larger churches. But I just think, like, I feel like we don't understand, like, where else in society are you able to perfect a gift? Like, even beyond singing and preaching, like technology. You know how much technology that you can learn in church that can actually be profitable for you? Running sound, lights, cameras, running media, like, bro,
you get ton of reps. And when a church is depending on the lay servant to fill in the gaps, there's a higher level of forgiveness in terms of you don't have to have it together. If the sound isn't mixed right, if the monitors aren't, where they need to be, it's not a big deal. Like those traditional churches, they're usually not going through sound check before service, right? The choir may come in and they may sing, to practice, but they're not going through the levels that a mega church is, where it's very formulaic. We have these songs, we have to have them at this level, we're switching over to this. Like in the traditional faith experience that is not mega church, we see where pastor may come on and a song is playing before he or she preaches and could say, I feel the Lord moving in this direction. Impromptu, say, hey, let's go into this right here.
That's Pentecostal, fam. Like, you only get that in Pentecostal churches. Like, the real ones, the real sound AV people, the real music people, the ones that the industry goes after.
Yeah. Pentecostal. I'm sorry. Hey, I got my Baptist brothers, my Presbyterian brothers.
Apostolic.
I'm just putting it out there. There's something that happens, bro. On with, hey, pastor say we shifting in this direction, we shifting. And it could be an old song, like an old song, but it has some heart. And it could be a new song. I can't tell you how many times one of my pastors has come up and said, how great is our God. Sing with me. And everybody bust out crying and worshiping to a very simple, easy song. But the soul is there. It's all like the gift of God, and what my son would say, the vibes are good.
It's the vibes.
Like me even just saying that just brought me to that place where you're thinking, how great is our God? Sing with me. How great is our God? When you take that into the secular world, when Kels and all these artists would stop their concert and just do a run or impromptu, and people go crazy.
And you have to have musicians who are able to shift with you, that are not
like, oh, this wasn't on the list.
Like, I remember I was watching the Bob Marley movie, right? And Bob Marley, they had just brought in a new guitarist to come run their bass. And the guitarist, before one of the concerts came up to them like, hey, I didn't get a set list. He's like, Bob Marley's like, we don't have no set list.
Hey, you gotta flow with the vibes.
And that shows though, like the really gifted musicians are able to improvise. They are not set on just doing this, but they're able to.
I agree. So it's gifting and training, because when you were coming up, you had to be ready to switch gears. You had to be ready to shift from a hymnal to a choir song, to a Kirk Franklin song, to, if you go to a multicultural church, to go to like a Third Day or a Mercy Me, or you know what I mean? Like to be able to switch back and forth and still bring it to a place where you're creating an atmosphere for worship. And bro,
what I want us to look at, like to think about, is Jermaine Dupri bringing up this he is one of the greatest producers, and he hit the nail on the head from a cultural standpoint, because he hears all the critics, man, why is there no R&B, like why is the R&B music so whack, like, and if you listen to R&B back in the 90s, bruh, it is night and day compared to what, I don't even know if there is any R&B today.
Music videos in the rain, calling out for your baby. I wish it would rain, like in the desert. Like, come on.
But where were they able to find those artists? In the church, which just goes to show you how important church has been for the culture. This could be a big statement. When the church is not performing its role in society, there are impacts that come with it. And you can see the shift that has taken place, because we know, we're in the church. We know what's going on in the church, the shifts that are happening and the mega church phenomenon has actually, in many ways, taken, like, it has taken away from culture when the church became productized, and when it became more of a machine, and it lost some of the. It's just like you going from a local restaurant to a franchise.
Yeah, because the franchise has a formula. They have their cost, right? They can't change the menu that quickly, because it has to come from corporate, right? It has to come from corporate. It has to go through their test kitchen. There's proper procedures that have to be done. In a local restaurant, you could be like, man, my auntie made a great sweet potato pie the other day. Let me have her make 5 of them, and I'm going to sell some slices this week.
And you're not going to make millions running a local restaurant.
You're not.
But it still plays a role in that community.
A big role.
Because I don't want to go to Chick-fil-A every day.
No.
I don't want to.
Sometimes you want some good home cooking that'll stick to your ribs. When you go in, you get that welcome. And like, there's a restaurant that's nearby that I go to, local restaurant. I won't name any names, but when I go in there,
they know you.
The owner is actually working behind the counter. She knows me. I know her. I bring people there for my business meetings and lunches. I go there and I spend money, and she probably grosses $1 million, right? Because she does, the lines don't stop, and she's open 6 days a week.
Yeah.
But net she might make, $200,000.
And that's a great local restaurant.
That's great. And she has a couple food trucks too. But I say that to say that the vibes that I get from going there is different than going to First Watch. First Watch food is good.
Yeah.
But it's different. The push for the bigger church so we can keep our anonymity and lower our level of commitment. Because what do we complain about? When you're in a small church, you get saved, they want to put you in a position to help. Like, okay, what do we need? Can you do this? Can you do that? Oh, you can't do it? Let me teach you, because we need somebody to do it. You don't know how to run sound? Come on, sit next to the sound guy for the next 6 weeks, 3 weeks, and then you'll start doing sound for Wednesday night services. And then you'll do sound for Wednesday night and Sunday night. And then before you know it, now you're doing sound for Sunday all day and Wednesday, and now the old sound guy is doing something else to help so it's an ecosystem where they train you, they develop you, they let you go. You fail, that's fine. We can't fire you because you volunteering.
Exactly.
So you get reps, you get tons of reps, and you get people who may have started out not being able to sing well. They let them explore their voice, and a lot of times when you sing with passion, like Casey and JoJo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you call Casey and JoJo one of the top 2 like vocalists, or would you call them because of their passion and how they deliver that note, right?
Yeah.
I would lean more towards passion than pure vocal ability.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times that passion, that fervor for the Lord, that the oil,
mm-hmm.
when that oil is running down, the anointing is running down.
Oil, not baby oil.
I knew you were gonna say that, bro. I knew it. I was trying to you ever go down the road and I'm like, oh crap, I'm not gonna say no Diddy. Let me see if I can make it through. But the anointing, when the anointing exudes from whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's delivering a message or preaching, or even playing the drums, playing an instrument. Like, I was blessed to know a music director who he'd be playing and the Spirit of God would be moving through him, and we were in church with him, and he was blessed and anointed, and he had a heart for developing talent, for developing gifts, which is why he told my 6-year-old son, yeah, come on, let's play around with the drums, learn. Like, that atmosphere is gone in the mega church because there's that's what you give up for anonymity, for being so big.
So here's my thing. I'm gonna try my best to dissect what the issue is. Mostly being for a long time historically, the mega church phenomenon started late 80s, early 90s. Rick Warren's really the godfather, right? He was the one when purpose-driven life shut everything down. Purpose-driven church was also another phenomenon because he basically became the godfather of the franchise of the mega church,
multi-site,
of the franchise, or the system. He systemized how to put a mega church together in Purpose-Driven Church in that book.
Okay.
And it became sort of this phenomenon. People began flocking to the mega church and leaving the smaller churches. The smaller churches then began to feel like no one wants to come to our churches. So we have to either try to become a mega church or do a really bad job at it, but at the same time doing our best to becoming, because then the pastorate, the role of the pastor began to be, it was not real. You could not be proud of pastoring a small church. The only people that you can pastor now, it has to be a big church, or else you aren't really, you ain't that guy or that lady. So as that shift began to happen, even the smaller churches felt the impact, or felt the pull of it, and they began to operate their ministries differently because now they're trying to get those people back, or feel like they're doing something by pastoring a large church. That's been happening in culture, right? So now we get videos like this that show us, oh man, the church is not really playing its role in developing people the way it used to. And the mega church right now is actually struggling. It's actually not doing very well.
Hey now.
There's a lot of building, not as many people in the building as it was. I actually heard something. I'll mention it before we get off. But like there was a story a guy told yesterday on live. It went pretty big. Like it spread out a lot because he talked to a guy who was trying to get a building and all this different stuff. But the point is this. Here's my thing. When you're starting a local restaurant, you shouldn't start a local restaurant trying to get rich. You should start it because you want to
passion.
You want to add value to that community.
Yeah.
And you should not be trying to churn it into a franchise, even though you might feel like it's that pull, right? Like, because if you're having success, right, you want to multiply that success, but at the same time, the bigger you get, the less feeling that people will feel. It's a difficult. That's just a very difficult thing. I think the same thing goes with churches. If you're pastoring a local church, just focus on pastoring that local church. Why does it have to get much bigger? Because the impact that you're going to have on those people is actually going to be a lot larger if you stay small. But at the same time, why do I want to say it's a really difficult thing when you're leading something? Because on one end, you love the smallness, the feeling of community. But at the same time, if that thing is doing well, you want it to go bigger, right? You might start thinking, man, think of all the other people. But as soon as you get bigger, your impact is smaller. I say all that, I rambled, but I say all of that to say this. I think the church in general has to stop trying to get so big.
In terms of the assembly, the individual assembly.
I honestly believe that we will do better for our communities. We will do better for society in general. Less pastors try to build mega churches and just try to faithfully shepherd that local church.
The reason that the impact of the small church is more beneficial to the community is because there's a higher level of commitment and dedication that is necessary for it to function.
Yep.
Within the formula of the megachurch, your level of commitment is not as high.
Yeah.
Because maybe once every 6 weeks you're on parking lot duty, or once every 6 weeks you're on ushering.
You could literally go to the church, never
and do nothing,
never give. You just go and you leave.
The smaller, by small, I don't mean just 50, 20, 30 people. I'm talking about 200, 300, 500 people. It, to me, is still.
How is that small?
That's still a medium-sized church to me. 500? Mega church, I'm thinking 2,500 up. That's mega church to me. You're saying 500 members is a mega church.
Mega church is about 800.
You're saying 500 is a big church.
That's a nice sized church.
I don't think that's a big church.
Dude.
I think you could still build. That's a different conversation. I'm sorry. We got to talk about that. We got to talk about that later. But what I'm saying is the level of commitment that is required in that setting is higher because it's necessary for it to function.
Yeah.
And the results of that is that you're going to get a lot of reps. You're going to be allowed to fail forward, and you're going to get so good that those who had nothing to do with investing in you and allowing you to put in those reps will want your services and your gifting in their organization. So whether it be secular artist to become a secular artist, somebody told me something about Soul Child. They made him change his song that went so popular. I'm not gonna say it here because we might get tagged or something. But just look up Music Soul Child and how the song is supposed to say Lord instead of what it actually does say. So and then they'll take that talent and that gifting that was refined and perfected in the church and
use it in the world.
Use it in the world, or use it in a bigger church that's running 2,500.
I mean, bro,
5,000.
The list goes on and on of the skills you learn. If you're a really good Sunday school teacher, that can turn into being a really good teacher in school. You could be a good organizer and run a business organizing. Like, bro, the list, literally, you can be, if you're on the usher team and you kill it, you can have your own service company doing something. Like, bro, the list goes on and on in the level of skills that you can learn in these smaller churches. But you know what? I think the real thing is, one of the things that's going to be important. People have to start showing more appreciation to these smaller churches. Not making these people that lead these churches feel like they're the only way that they're significant is if they have a bigger church. Why does that have to be the only thing that qualifies somebody as having a significant ministry? That's all, bro. When me growing up in ministry, that was all I ever heard was, if you don't have a big church, then you're not doing nothing. What you doing if your church ain't big, doc? How many?
And it's part of ego. It's part of ego. It's part of, because it's not immeasurable. Like the impact that you're making in people's lives is not really measurable. So if you have 150 member church and you're making great impact, and you've got, like, I know churches who have like a full on youth praise team where they got youth playing all the music, that's keyboard, guitar, organ, drums, and they got youth singing, right? And this is part of development. And these folks are so gracious and welcoming with their failures, because the kids are gonna miss notes, and they're gonna go off key. But they're still getting cheered.
Even the smaller churches, you got to prioritize kids ministry, because the way these kids are able to have this greatness, right, is because they grew up in church, because the church that they grew up in had something for them to do. Yeah. You have to, even if you're small, y'all still need a Sunday school. You still need a youth choir.
This is something, I know we're going off at a tangent, and if you're with us, like and subscribe, because we do this sometimes. But is it me, or are we doing too many services where everybody's in service on Sunday? Like, there's no breakout, there's no Sunday school. Like,
why is there?
What is going on?
Like, if you're trying to grow. Let me take back what I said about being content with being small. If you want to grow and you want families, why does my kid have to be next to me in the church during service? Let them go somewhere. They don't want to. They're just sleeping anyways.
Or on that tablet. Come on now.
Last time we were in church, bro, I looked down. My daughter is fast asleep.
What else is she gonna do? What else is she gonna do? Because you're not preaching anything that she could use,
bro. Why y'all don't have children? And you got all these. I'm gonna get way too specific, and I'm not trying to
say it. Say it. Leave out the names, but say it.
You got mothers in here. You got people in here, well-able people that can teach these kids. Why y'all can't? You will never grow if you don't have a kids ministry, ever.
Why not? Like, please stop putting whole families in the sanctuary on Sunday morning. Have a breakout. Do kids church. Have one of the young ministers preach a message for the kids.
It feels like we're
like, if you don't have Sunday school teachers, just do kids church in a room and just have them sit and preach for 20 minutes. Have cookies, Sunny Delight, whatever.
All of the Sunday
But
school
do
teachers,
something.
bro, like they're on a silent. They're doing a silent protest right now. They're like, we don't want your kids. We ain't trying to deal with your kids. We tired. We tired. It was.
But they're not getting anything,
what
and then
happened?
you wonder why they leaving when they turn 16.
Bro, I know what happened. I know exactly what happened. COVID. These Sunday school teachers got a taste of not having to do it for too long. They got a taste, bro. They were like, oh, I can sit down and enjoy the word. And they got so comfortable during COVID that now you go to any church out there. You know how hard it is to find people to watch your kids during church now? They're like, nope. They probably like, man, you're going to have to pay me.
Now the kids are on a tablet. You know what I mean? So my experience is when they had children's church, they would have like children leading worship for children, right? They'll have somebody come and sing a song. They might have somebody who's in band or, play an instrument. You know what I mean? Like, give you opportunity to get reps. And then they might have a kid deliver a sermonette. Mm-hmm. Like, again, giving you opportunities to get reps. And I just think that
you gotta have something for these kids, though. Like, if you're gonna be, if the only way, I honestly believe, if the only way a church can have real significant impact is through next generation. Like, you have to have stuff for kids. Even the most reluctant parent, even the most backslidden parent, even the most disinterested parent will bring their kids if you're adding value to them. I promise you. Promise you. You have to have something for them. But when we don't, then Jermaine Dupri, who is not being sponsored by any church, he has I guarantee you. I mean, he probably show up in church every once in a while. But brother is not a part of no church, and he is so objective, absolutely objective. And he said, "Man, I'll tell you exactly why we don't got no music, because these kids ain't in church. These kids ain't in church
because they're not in church. They're not getting the reps. Because they're not getting the reps, they're not getting developed. Because they're not developed, they're not being at a point where the world could say, hey, whoa, wait a minute, we could use this." And for
10,000
bad or worse,
10,000 hours. Where else can you get that much contribution towards your 10,000?
And it's in an affirming environment when you fail.
Bless his heart.
I say that with a I know that's a blanket statement, but it's an affirming environment when you're failing at those ages when you're first trying.
Depends. I mean, some pastors will call you out.
Not if your pastor's calling you out when you're first trying something out. I don't know. I might that might not be the place but I'm volunteering.
But that's the problem with this new model, bro, because this new model requires you to have these top
results immediately.
These top tier people, the top tier everything, and that's what you're selling.
But yeah, so we have to have something. So in conclusion, we got to have something for the youth to do. We got to have something for the youth to do in order to keep them there. And then, that environment is affirming and it allows you to fall and fail forward, which promotes the gift that you have to grow and to bear fruit.
And you know what I want to do though? Like if you hung in for these 42 minutes, you a ride or die for us. But listen, here's what I want though to affirm. If you go to a church like the one we're talking about, shout your pastor out in the comments, man. Let them know that you appreciate them, because it's hard to be a pastor of a small congregation that's being faithful. You have so many pressures of trying to be like this guy or that guy or this or that.
And sometimes you're doing that and you got a 9-to-5
and a business, and you out preaching at all if you're pastoring that level of church, now everybody wants you to come speak at their conference or write a book or whatever. Oh, well, the 9-to-5, that's for the small pastor. Yeah, it's a hard job. Right. It's a hard job, bro. And they should be appreciated, because especially if they're taking care, if they are helping develop your kids, and you know the fact that your kid is involved in this church, it's going to help them to become the person that is going to be great in the world one day, doing great things, man, that person needs some encouragement.
Because it's hard. It's hard out there for a small church pastor.
We want to shout. In fact, like, we really want to shout these guys out. Like, we want to be a place of encouragement. So please tag them in the comments, shout them out, so that way they can at least know, you know what, people out here, people support. We appreciate the contribution that you're making in our society. The longest reaction video ever. We ain't doing no more recordings today. This is it.
That's it.
All right, y'all. Appreciate it.
Love y'all.
Leveling up, and we'll talk soon. Peace.